Hi everyone, this is Mike with a week 4 update for Math 210 online at St. Louis Community College. Just thought I'd give you a video update this week instead of the long email. My hope is that this will be helpful. There's some text as well that you can read, but thought I'd provide some commentary as well. So with that said, the main announcement for this is that exam number 1 is scheduled for next week. There is a window that I'll talk about in a minute, but I want to make sure that you all have a chance to practice using the hardware and the software. So you'll need a webcam for the exam next week, and you'll also need to be using Respondus Lockdown Browser. And so in order to test those things out, there's a practice test that you can access through Blackboard, and the window for completing that task is now through 11:59 p.m. on Friday night, September 18th. So just a couple of quick things about that practice. Don't forget that you need to access that through Blackboard. In Blackboard is a link in the My Open Math part of the menu. If you click on My Open Math in our Blackboard course, you will see a link to the practice test, and when you click on that, it will give you directions for how to proceed. The test itself will be in My Open Math, but that will the links in the Blackboard page will send you to the right place. You should first open up the Respondus Lockdown browser, and then when you open up that browser, inside that browser you should go to Blackboard and to our test. So then for exam number 1 will be available starting at midnight on Thursday, September 24th, and it will be available until 11:59 p.m. on Friday the 25th. The exam covers the topics that you've been studying from all of modules 2 and 3. The exam has 19 items on it, but the first item is not a math question, and it shouldn't take you more than about 15 or 20 seconds to read through and answer. So really it has 18 math questions on it. You'll have 2 full hours to complete the exam once you begin. And 8 of the items of the 18 are from Module 2, and the other 10 are from Module 3. Most of the items that you will see, some of the items will be exactly like those that you've worked on in the assignments, although others will be slightly different. And some items will ask you to explain your thinking, just as I've asked you to do in the activities and forums. In those explaining items, I will score manually. So My Open Math will score the other ones, but then I will go back and review all of your answers and score them manually. Some of the items require you to do, a bunch of steps, maybe some algebraic manipulation, but most of them, the purpose of the exam is actually to give you an opportunity to answer questions about the concepts and not necessarily do all the steps that you may have seen in some of the homework problems. So because they're conceptually oriented, it's going to be really important that you are thinking critically and carefully about the stuff that you've studied and not just sort of memorize formulas. So a couple things about preparing for the exam. The best way to prepare for the exam is to complete all the assignments, activities, and discussion forums on time. I've been teaching calculus online for a long time, and I can tell you that generally speaking, students who stay on track with the calendar generally do well on the exams. Not everybody gets 100%, not necessarily everybody gets an A, but this is the first exam, and so really the best way to make sure that you're prepared at the minimal level is to do all those required activities and assignments and discussion forums. If you want to practice anything from the assignments, you can try them all again by clicking on the assignment link, either by going to the module that it's in or using the calendar, and then click on the practice button. You don't necessarily want to click on your grade in the grade book because that just takes you to the problem that you've already done and it will show you the answer. But if you want to retry a new version of the problem, you want to go to the assignment itself. So here's an example, and just click on the practice key. Don't worry, your grade will not change. So no matter what you do during that practice session, your grade is not affected. So that's one important way to prepare for the test. Other ways that you can prepare are to study the weekly forum posts. Read through those and pretend like you had to answer them all by yourself without using notes or going back and watching videos. If you can understand the question and you can understand or think about a way to answer the question, that's usually a good sign that you understand what's going on in the class. You can also review your work in the activities and read through the feedback that I've given you on each one. The feedback that I've written for the activities will show up in the gradebook, and there's a link that says View Feedback. You can also look in the textbook. There are lots of exercises that help you practice in the textbook, along with links to answers to all the odd-numbered items. I also recommend rewatching some of the video lessons. I don't recommend trying to go back and watching all of them. That would be very time-consuming. But if there are particular topics that you've struggled with, it's a good idea to go back and rewatch some of those video lessons. Lastly, I usually recommend to people to create a cheat sheet. Now, I want to be really clear. I am not going to allow you to use notes or a note card or a half sheet of paper. There's not a formula sheet or any of those kinds of things that I think you should be using. On the other hand, creating the cheat sheet is a helpful study aid and a study tool, because what you would write down on a cheat sheet is the stuff that you have trouble remembering and the stuff that you really need to know, the stuff that's most important. So the process of choosing what you need to know and what you have trouble with is part of your preparation. Figure out what you need to know, what's important, and what you struggle with. In addition, think about what is on that sheet. It's what you need help with and what you want to try and remember. And so it makes a perfect study guide. So creating a cheat sheet is a good study guide. But again, let me be clear. The only resource you should be using when you take the exam is your brain and the Desmos graphing app. And just lastly, want to remind you to stay in touch. It's still early in the course, but I suspect that many of you are already starting to see the importance of working consistently on this material. It's easy to fall behind because there's a lot to do. And so my hope is that you're settling into a routine that's starting to work for you. And so many of you I know are off to a great start, and I think you should be proud of your work so far. And for many of you, I think your chances of doing well in the exam are really good. But if you are starting to fall behind or you're concerned about your approach and whether or not you're going to be prepared for the exam, it's not too late. But you want to do that sooner rather than later. So contact me if you have concerns or questions about that, and we can work together on getting you back on track. I'm always available to address questions or concerns. So please let me know if you have questions. Please let me know if you're having trouble with something as you're working in calculus, and I'll be happy to respond as soon as I'm able. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll be in touch to give you more information next week.